Welcome to Voice of the Soul. Here on this channel, we explore emotional healing, inner truth, and spiritual evolution. In today's episode, I'd like to talk about how parents, intentionally or unintentionally, pass down invisible wounds to their children from fear-based upbringings. Have you ever been excited about an international trip, only for your parents to hide your passport because they believed the destination was unsafe? Have you dreamed of becoming an artist, but your parents pushed you into business school for a safe corporate job? Have you wanted to invest in your own business, only to hear 50% of businesses fail within 5 years? Or maybe you tried to stand up to your boss, but your parents told you not to trust lawyers and to just move on? Let's be clear, responsible parents who want to protect their children from real harm should be given credit. But here, we are speaking about something else, a more subtle, deeper force, the fear that lives within parents who raise children from a fear-based ego. This is the kind of fear that discourages dreaming big, taking risks, or stepping into the unknown, not because it's truly unsafe, but because it's hard for someone to hold a light for you when they haven't yet found that light within themselves. My story. Both of my parents had stable jobs, and my sister and I grew up in what many would describe as a protected environment. But well into adulthood, I began to understand that both of us were carrying deep emotional scars. These wounds weren't just ours. They were inherited, passed down through our parents, shaped by their own upbringing, and influenced by cultural expectations that discouraged emotional reflection. One of the wounds I observed in both my parents was the lack of genuine love for themselves. Despite their educational and professional accomplishments, they spent much of their lives battling with themselves. I can't recall many moments when they seemed to live with lightness. For them, life was either a burden to carry, an exam to pass, or a mess to endure. Even now, I can still see their wounded inner children, holding them back, refusing to let them believe they are worthy of even a passing grade. From a more healed place in my heart, I no longer blame them. I've come to see and appreciate the beautiful parts of who they are. But their wounds have prevented them from living life with their truth. How does parenting with fear-based ego impact us? Fear-based parenting usually stems from unresolved emotional wounds. Over time, this kind of upbringing can dim your spirit. You begin to lose your passion for exploring the world, for creative expression, for confronting injustice, or simply for being yourself. Eventually, you may disconnect from your emotions, becoming a stranger to your own inner world. If you were raised by fear-based parents, you might recognize some of these patterns. 1. They project fear and doubt onto you. This is often unconscious. When their inner child feels unsafe, they project that fear onto you, usually in the name of love. Instead of seeing you as a capable soul, they may see you as fragile, helpless, and at risk. The limiting beliefs that imprison them become the legacy they unknowingly pass down. You slowly begin to lose the spark in your eyes. You start believing you're not smart enough to go to that top school, and not charming enough to date the person you like, and not competitive enough to land that job, and not interesting enough to form deep connections, and not abundant enough to take that dream vacation. This fear-based lens can become your inner voice. You start questioning every bold choice, every unfamiliar path, every intuitive nudge, not because they are truly dangerous, but because fear has been wired into your nervous system as your protector. Over time, this internalized fear starts sounding like your own thoughts, even though it was never yours to begin with. 2. They expect success from you. To compensate for their own insecurity, They look to your achievements to validate their parenting and sense of self. You become the golden child only when you succeed. But the moment you fail or fall short, you feel invisible, or worse, shamed. This dynamic creates a deep fear of failure. Achievements become your oxygen, but not your joy. Success, instead of being fulfilling, becomes a way to avoid rejection. And in the process, you drift further from your inner peace and self-worth. You fear that if you stop achieving, your very sense of existence might disappear. You may begin chasing milestones that were never aligned with your soul, simply because love and approval were always tied to performance. Even rest feels unsafe, as if the moment you pause, everything you've worked to prove will collapse. In time, your identity becomes wrapped around doing rather than being, and self-worth feels conditional, always just out of reach. 3. They struggle to show you how to regulate emotions. Because of their own emotional repression, they struggle to support you through emotional challenges. When you faced academic pressure, rejection from peers, or physical and emotional changes in adolescence, your sensitivity was often ignored or dismissed. Instead of helping you process those feelings, they may have withdrawn or tried to control the situation by ignoring it altogether. This emotional neglect can make you either overly dependent on others or hyper-independent, avoiding vulnerability at all costs. You may stay in codependent relationships, always caretaking others while ignoring your own needs. Or you may push people away the moment intimacy arises, fearing it will expose you. Over time, emotional suppression becomes a survival strategy. You might feel numb in moments when you should cry, or overwhelmed when facing minor setbacks, because no one ever showed you how to hold space for your own emotions. Without emotional literacy, you're either keeping your emotions at bay and living a hollow life, or drowning in emotional densities you don't know how to dissipate. 4. They tend to gain control of your life at every step. Fear-based parents often mask their fear of losing control over you as guidance or concern. But beneath that surface lies their own uncertainty about their position in your life. By making choices for you, whether big or small, they build a distorted form of love connection with you, at the expense of your strong sense of self. At first, this may feel like love or support. But over time, it creates wounds of self-sabotage and self-doubt. The message is subtle but persistent: you can't be trusted with your own life. And the cost of that belief is steep, a growing disconnection from your inner compass. You become a passenger in your own life, unable to steer, and struggle to set clear boundaries with those around you. This dynamic often shows up later in life as indecision, over-explaining, people-pleasing, or the constant need for external validation. You hesitate to claim your space, your choices, or your desires, because the fear of disappointing others has been deeply embedded in your nervous system. 5. In extreme cases, narcissistic traits. Some fear-based parents exhibit narcissistic tendencies, often due to the severe lack of genuine and unconditional love they received in their own upbringing. They may take credit for your victories, compare you to people who don't reflect your path, and need to feel superior at your expense. Your individuality may feel threatening to them, unless it keeps you small and always places them on a pedestal. Your light must dim so theirs can shine, or worse, your inner child hides in the darkness, carrying unspeakable shame and pain, having lost sight of the last flicker of your own light. The conditional love you received from them often leads to deep-rooted despair and self-loathing. You mask your pain by appearing perfect on the outside just to survive, while feeling deeply lonely and emotionally unsafe within. Their emotional manipulation may be subtle, disguised as tradition, advice, or discipline, but the impact is long-lasting. Over time, your true identity begins to vanish, and the fear of being seen becomes just as strong as the desire to be free. The path to healing. The impact of fear-based parenting can run deep, but healing becomes possible when you begin to view your life through a holistic lens. This means honoring your emotional integrity, your physical body, your authentic self-expression, and your spiritual truth. By nurturing your holistic well-being, you learn to prioritize your emotions and emotional needs, treat your body as a sacred vessel for transformation, give yourself the time and space for creative expression, and return to the wholeness of remembering who you truly are. Along the healing journey, you may feel grief, anger, or even the urge to cut off contact with parents who cause you pain. That's okay. These emotions are part of reclaiming yourself. Eventually, if you stay aligned with your inner truth, you'll reach a place of peace, where you can see your parents as human beings with wounded egos, shaped by their own fears and limitations. You begin to see your life not as a burden or a curse, but as a sacred assignment, one that prepared you to find your light by walking through the long stretches of your shadow. Conclusion. Embrace your divine truth. Life is both unfair and fair. Unfair, because it can feel as though we are met with more shadow than light, long before we've remembered the light within us. Fair, because each of us is given the sacred opportunity to heal, grow, and awaken to the truth of who we are. Here's the deeper truth. You are not a victim. You hold the key to transformation. You are here to discover the power within you to end the generational cycle, not by blame, but through conscious healing. At the peak of that journey is a powerful realization. You are not part of the chaos that doesn't belong to you. You are a divine soul, here to undergo alchemical transformation in this lifetime, to turn pain into wisdom, fear into love, and vulnerabilities into strength. You are no longer the wounded child. You are the spiritual warrior, rising with grace. You are the cosmic lighthouse, standing with unwavering determination. Thank you for tuning in Voice of the Soul. Until next time, stay anchored in your most powerful energy, sending you love and light.